For a cigarette, you'd have a better tasting cigarette. Of course, we can't guarantee it'd smoke as smooth as a Tareyton. Face it, if you want your cigarette to smoke as smooth as a Tareyton, it'll just have to be a Tareyton with the activated charcoal filter.
That's why us Tareyton smokers would rather fight
than switch.
President Johnson calls for an end to violence. A two-truck collision takes 2 lives, and 1 child is dead, another in poor condition from starvation. This is John MacDougall, and I'll have those stories on the KSTP News 10 o'clock report in a moment.
Christmas Mail Control Center, Washington, D.C. We have the people, the plans, and the equipment to deliver your holiday mail on time. But we still need your help. Please shop early, mail early, and use zip code.
On the 12 days of Christmas, give your true loved ones the gift that continues to give all year long. Christmas seals. Fight tuberculosis and other respiratory diseases through your generous use of Christmas seals. Answer your Christmas seal letter today. It's a matter of life and breath.
Now earn big book rates with the certificate account at Midwest Federal. Your savings can earn 5.30%, 0.17% more than any other insured savings plan available today. Open a Midwest Federal certificate account and have your 6-month earnings automatically reinvested every 6 months in a passbook account. Your combined total earnings per year amount to 5.30%. Earn the big book rate at Midwest Federal, the big name in savings today.
Wake up! Milk is the lipid line.
I'm Bill Cowsill.
I'm Bill Cowsill.
And I drink milk for energy and vitality.
By the gallon he drinks it.
Especially at mealtime.
You mean any time.
Milk is the lift that lasts.
Superfood! Wake up! Milk's the lift that. Milk is the lift that lasts.
Channel 5, Minneapolis, St. Paul. From KSTP News Headquarters for the Northwest, tomorrow's news tonight. This is the KSTP News 10 o'clock report with John MacDougall. Brought to you by the folks at NSP, who invite you to bring your life up to date to live better electrically.
Good evening, everyone. Minneapolis homicide authorities are questioning at this hour a father of a 14-month-old child who was found dead tonight in a home at 654 Emerson Avenue North. First reports say the infant may have died of starvation. A second child, about 2 years of age, was rushed to Hennepin County General Hospital in very critical condition. His legs were in casts, apparently to correct a birth defect. Police speculate the children are left alone in the residence for 2 and possibly 3 days. The mother is still being sought by the authorities. She and her husband are reportedly separated. The State Crime Bureau has issued figures showing that there is another increase in major crime in Minnesota in rural areas as well as urban areas. The overall increase recorded in the first 10 months of this year shows a 21% jump. The violent crimes have dropped somewhat, however. On the other hand, robberies have shot up some 26%. A Coon Rapids couple died shortly before 7 this morning when their pickup truck collided with a large oil tanker at highways 47 and 10. The dead are identified as 55-year-old Merlin Hoburn and his 49-year-old wife, Carol. According to the investigators, the Hoburns were attempting to turn from Highway 47 onto Highway 10 when they collided with a northbound truck. The wreckage had to be pried apart to reach the victims. The truck driver, Raymond Call of New Brighton, is in the hospital. He is in good condition. The Senate Antitrust and Monopoly Subcommittee is continuing its hearings about the high cost of automobile repairs. Today, the president of the Auto Body Association of America, Louis Baffa, criticized the automobile designers. He said auto design is too complicated, and he brought along 2 wheels to make his point.
I have here, gentlemen, 2 road wheels. And these wheels you're well familiar with. However, I don't know if you're aware that this particular wheel happens to be a little bigger than this one, but it's the same, it does the same thing. It's a 1968 Ford passenger wheel, and it's from a Galaxy 500. And I've taken the precaution to make sure that this wheel was built to hold the same weight as this rim was built to hold. I picked 2 cars that are in the same weight area. This rim cost $7.45. This rim cost $12.40. And I don't see where this rim should cost less than this one. And this is from a 1968 Chevrolet.
The Minnesota Public Service Commission has been asked by Twin City Lines Incorporated to grant an emergency 5-cent increase in the bus fare. If granted, the basic fare would jump from the present quarter to 30 cents. The bus firm bases its request on what it says are money problems. More opposition to the Pig's Eye Industrial Park. Next on the KSTP News 10 o'clock report.
Homer, I'm writing a slogan for NSP on flameless electric heat.
Well, how about ask the man who owns one, Roy?
William Fireeisen has owned an electric heat home for 7 years, Homer. He likes it so well, he's putting it in the new home he's building. Benjamin Carey says, I like the fact that our electric heat is warm and comfortable in any part of the house. It's like standing in the sunshine. Robert Fortner says, we wouldn't have anything else. Our heat is even, and we can control temperature room by room. The Earl Gillises say, with electric heat, we just set the thermostat. There's never any heat lag. And don't forget, the cost has come down 40% since 1958.
How's this one, Homer? Hail to thee, electric heat. You keep me warm from head to feet.
I think I'm getting sick, Roy.
Electric heating is your key to modern comfort living. For information, call your NSP Electric Home Heating Specialist.
The organized resistance to the proposed Pig's Eye Lake Industrial Park development in southeast St. Paul became even more vocal tonight. We get details now from KSTP News reporter Ray Voss.
Christ United Methodist Church in Maplewood tonight is the scene of a meeting of residents concerned over a project to turn Pig's Eye Lake into an industrial park. The meeting was called by a group called Mecca, headed by Paul Engstrom.
Last spring, we noticed that a fill was going into this valley. And so we got together, went and talked with the people involved, namely the Port Authority. We received a fine reception, smiles and kind words, but the fill continued. So we decided that it was necessary for the people of the area to organize and get to work and try to restore some sense of balance and sanity to what we're doing to our environment in the city of St. Paul.
The area has been a veritable wilderness for years. Cleek Dunn has operated a service station across from the lake for about 30 years.
We run a foster home here, have 5 boys at present, and they practically live down there. They go down there and they didn't even realize what hunting was or what outdoor sports was until they come out here.
Fill work has advanced beyond what might be called the talking stage. Railroad tracks for future industry run almost to the water. In spite of this, residents hope to save at least part of the lake for recreational purposes. This is Ray Voss, KSTP News.
President Johnson addressed his Commission for Human Rights in Washington today. He said the most basic and most dangerous challenge to the world today is the challenge of human rights.
Riots and violence torment our cities all over the globe. Schools and colleges are prevented from educating students. A report the other day I saw where universities in more than 25 of the leading nations had been taken over. Laws are flouted. Moral and political leaders are struck down by assassination. Every society today is emerging and discovering new divisions and new separations and new
alienations. And we just cannot allow the centrifugal forces at work to break up the democratic societies which so many have labored so long to build and to perfect.
South Dakota Senator George McGovern urged the president today to meet with Soviet Premier Kosygin before the president leaves office. McGovern, who unsuccessfully challenged Vice President Humphrey for the Democratic presidential nomination, appeared on the NBC Today program this morning.
If it's possible, and I think it is, and I would hope this would happen, for President Johnson and Mr. Kosygin to sit down in the closing weeks of the Johnson administration and talk not just about the settlement in Vietnam, but about the problems of arms reductions, which are such an enormous, have such an enormous interest to both countries, the problems in the Middle East, the other areas of disagreement among us. If all of that could be served by a quick ratification of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, I would be in favor of the President calling the Congress into session now and moving quickly on the ratification of the treaty, and perhaps accompanying that with an invitation to Mr. Kosygin for a summit conference. I can't think of a better way for President Johnson to close out his administration than with an all-out effort to reach an accommodation on some of these issues that threaten the peace of the world.
The fighting in Vietnam flared out along the Cambodian border again late today. A dozen American soldiers wounded. The battle was in the same area where 25 members of the U.S. 1st Air Cavalry Division were ambushed and killed late yesterday. Prince Sihanouk of Cambodia has complained to the United Nations about alleged United States attacks on his country. He says the recurrence of such attacks threaten world peace. U.S. and North Vietnamese negotiators met informally in Paris today. They both reported some progress toward starting the expanded peace talks with both South Vietnam and the Viet Cong present. Then both sides traded accusations concerning activity in the demilitarized zone. The 77th Annual Minnesota Sheriff's Association Convention began in the Twin Cities today. In opening remarks, William Spurrier, the president of the National Sheriff's Association, spoke about the group's chief concern.
The chief concern of the sheriffs is the same as every other arm of law enforcement, is the better training of their personnel. First of all, we must have the right kind of salaries to attract the right kind of people. I think you're going to find that universal throughout the country, that in law enforcement, that every department, whether it's a police department or a highway patrol or a sheriff's department, they're going to have more money to attract, give their people more pay, better facilities, and better training. That's better training they must have. There isn't any way that we can get out of it. I don't know the arm of law enforcement that doesn't want more and better training.
23-year-old Robert Bertiam of Big Lake, Minnesota, has drawn the maximum 15-year prison sentence for first-degree manslaughter charges. Bertiam was charged with the November 16th stabbing death of a fellow Big Lake resident. Members of the American Mothers Committee, Incorporated, handed St. Paul Mayor Byrne a citation and a whistle today. As explained by the State Committee Chairwoman, Mrs. Joseph Crow, Minnesota's Mother of the Year, the whistle and its accompanying flashlight are part of the group's effort to cut back on the number of street assaults on women. At $1 apiece, the whistles are to be carried and, if necessary, sounded to ward off would-be attackers. The director of the U.S. Bureau of Mines, John O'Leary, held an hour-long news conference today and spoke of mine disasters. He said all the present mine safety laws should be thrown out and new ones written. He said new laws won't stop disasters, though. That part of the blame must be put on the mining industry and the miners themselves.
We have annual inspection reports, or thrice annual inspection reports on every substantial mine on the country, and we find violation after violation after violation in those mines. We have a national record that looks very poor when laid up against the German national record, the UK national record, the French national record, the Netherlands national record, and the others that I've examined. So I think that I'm not indicting anyone. If anything, I'm indicting myself. I'm indicting an agency that I've been associated with for a long time. We haven't done all that we should have in this field.
Israeli fighter bombers struck deep into Jordan today, 50 miles. They said their attacks were aimed at the installations of an Iraqi army division that shelled Israeli frontier settlements earlier this week. The United States has told both Israel and Jordan today that continuing violation of the ceasefire will only serve to heighten the tensions and dampen the efforts toward a permanent peace. Part of the Christmas season is missing in Minneapolis, and we'll have that next on the KSTP News 10 o'clock report.
Are you putting up with an old kitchen just because it came with the house? Let's plan a new one. A no-defrost refrigerator freezer, a dishwasher, a self-cleaning oven and range. And you've brought your life up to date beautifully with a flameless all-electric kitchen. What difference does electricity make? It can give you an oven that cleans itself. It's the only way to get someone to wash dishes willingly. It's the only way to end time-consuming defrosting. Frost just never forms in a no-defrost refrigerator freezer. Just one thing wrong with this beautiful kitchen. You're not here much, because penny-cheap electricity does the work. Wouldn't you like to bring your life up to date with a flameless, all-electric kitchen? Make plans. This free kitchen and laundry idea book contains full-color photographs and dozens of suggestions. Get one from your appliance dealer or NSP.
A lawsuit designed to resolve the long-standing high-level dispute in the Bush Foundation of St. Paul has been filed by the Attorney General, Douglas Head. He is demanding that 4 of the foundation's 7-member board of directors resign, along with several of the top administrators. At issue is the squabble as to whom among the top echelon of the foundation will control the $170 million fortune left by the late board chairman of the 3M company, Archibald Bush. A holiday institution has died, and with it those familiar red-suited gentlemen who for years have stood on the downtown street corners soliciting your charitable contributions. The tradition was sponsored by the bell-ringing Volunteers of America, which decided this year to call it quits. KSTP News reporter Mary Lou Thibault asked VOA official Colonel Robert Nolte why.
Well, it wasn't an easy decision after 73 years on the corners of Minneapolis, but our board felt that our role now with the social problems that exist is to do something more permanent for the life of children rather than a temporary Christmas kind of help that just makes them happy for one day.
What kind of program do you have in mind?
Well, just since October 1st, we have opened 3 new programs. As you know, we operate Barn on Boys Ranch and other facilities for children, and now we have added the Children's Shelter for emergency cases and a new group home for boys and another for girls.
Do you expect any public reaction to the taking away of the Santa Clauses?
Well, I'd like a public reaction that would inundate us with contributions for the new programs, but of course we aren't as visible and people will have to find us, I guess. I'm sure there's a lot of nostalgia for all of us, and yet we have to live in the world that is, not the world that was.
The Minneapolis school system teaches a high school course in the analysis and policy of the American economy. The textbook for this class has a cover design that includes the symbols for a penny and a dollar and percent. But if you turn this book upside down, the marks read LSD. We're wondering if the artist infers that the American economy has some psychedelic overtones, or maybe the policymakers are using something else other than computers to make their decisions. That's the news, brought to you this evening by NSP. Johnny Morris has the weather for us. It's going to be windy and cold, he says. We'll hear about it next on the KSTP News 10 o'clock report.
During the shortage of new Virginia Slims, won't you please share yours with a friend?
No.
Every kid today wants to play like the pros. Well, tell them, you want to play like the pros, you got to outbeef the other guys. Dinty Moore outbeefs the other guys. It's a whole meal of lean beef, carrots, potatoes, and real meat gravy that outbeefs them all for flavor. Put Dinty Moore beef stew on your training table, the way the National Football League does. Dinty Moore outbeefs the other guys. From Hormel.
Now you start with beef, good and lean, and you add those good red chili beans. Then ripe tomatoes, fresh and bright, and chili spices mixed just right. You simmer them up till the flavors blend, and you've got Hormel chili, friend. Hormel chili. It's not exactly tame.
The KSTP News 10 o'clock report weather with Johnny Morris is brought to you tonight by Safe Sound Twin City Federal, the savings institution in this area that has moved ahead of all the rest.
Blowing snow continues to hamper visibilities in northern Minnesota tonight. Visibilities range from fair to poor across the northern sections. Reports from 1/2 mile to 500 feet or less are common. A low-pressure cell moving very rapidly is now over upper Michigan. It's trailing cold front down through Kansas and Oklahoma. Strong winds up to 50 miles an hour at times accompanied this low-pressure cell in its trek across the area. But by tomorrow, fair skies will break out in the Dakotas and some clearing will occur in Minnesota. No further snow accumulation expected in Minnesota, but a high-pressure cell in Canada will pump down some much colder air for tomorrow and tomorrow night. In San Francisco, they had a high of 54 today. It was 71 in Phoenix, a mild 60 up in Denver. More rain fell in the Pacific coastal areas, 50 degrees with very little rain in Seattle, but 1 1/2 inches of rain fell at Portland, Oregon, with some snow in the higher elevations of the suburbs. In Dallas, Texas, they posted 66 for their maximum, while freezing temperatures are expected down into central Florida tonight. There's a warm 79 in Miami this afternoon, but they expect 40 overnight tonight. And rain in heavy amounts fell in the northeast, 2 inches in New York City, gales along the northeast coast tonight, and 10 inches of snow up in Rumford, Maine. In our 5 states, fair and cold in North Dakota with a high of only 23 tomorrow. It should be down around 0 in parts of North Dakota tonight. Cold wave warnings were issued earlier today. Cold at a high of 28 in South Dakota. Minnesota will be mostly cloudy with windy and colder conditions expected tomorrow. A high of just 18 degrees in northern Minnesota, 5 above tonight, and 20s in southern Minnesota for the highs tomorrow. They now have 13 inches of snow on the ground in Duluth. They picked up 3 more inches today. Snow flurries and colder in Wisconsin with 20s in the north and 30s in southern Wisconsin with cooler weather and a high of 40 degrees predicted for Iowa. So at last the mild weather is coming to an end, at least temporarily. It looks like cold weather for the next 2 days. Local conditions in a moment. If you want the facts about 1969, facts about the phases of the moon, about eclipses and the stars, facts about each day of the month, its length, what happened in history, what is the weather likely to be, if you want facts like that, then you want an almanac, and Twin City Federal has one for you free. Its 32 pages are crammed with all the traditional almanac facts, including planting guides and garden bulletins, health tips, weights and measures, and all the miscellaneous information that make almanacs such a joy to read. Twin City Federal has an almanac for you free. Ask for a copy at any one of the 9 Twin City Federal offices where the famous twin clocks flash time and temperature. And now, on behalf of the Mental Health Association, the helping hand of Twin City Federal reminds you that all Twin City Federal offices are collection centers for gifts going to patients in state hospitals. Bring a gift and bring happiness to someone who might otherwise be forgotten at Christmas time. In the Twin Cities, partly cloudy, windy, and cold tonight and tomorrow with a 10% probability of measurable precipitation. Our minimum temperature this morning was 21 degrees, warmed up nicely. 41 was the high this afternoon, but now it's fallen to 27. Should be down around 18 overnight, 25 the high for tomorrow, then down to 10 above tomorrow night. Northwesterly winds will continue strong tomorrow, 20 to 30 miles per hour, diminishing tomorrow night. Very strong, 24 gusting to 34 now from the northwest, 69% humidity. The low barometer is rising from 29.56. So we'll have a little sunshine, but that's about the only good thing in tomorrow's weather, just windy and cold with a high of 25 degrees. Johnny Morris for Twin City Federal, asking you to stay tuned for the sports with Al Tighe.
When friends drop in, be ready for the instant party season with Gino's Pizza Rolls.
The game's ended. Now watch a cleaning revolution. Look, the heavy dirt's bad enough, but these stains, grass stains, body grime, even blood stains, dirt and stains, 2 different problems. Too much for regular detergents, but now the most revolutionary cleaning formula in detergent history. Procter & Gamble's new Gain with microenzyme action. So advanced, it treats stains like dirt. Gain gets out heavy dirt better than regular detergents, and Gain's microenzyme action gets out many stubborn stains like these without soaking or special treatment. It's a clean you can't get with regular detergents. See? Grass stains, gone. Body grime, gone. Blood stains, gone. Get Gain with microenzyme action. Gain treats stains like dirt.
The KSTP News 10 o'clock report, Sports with Al Tighe, brought to you by Standard Oil, division of American Oil Company, and your local Standard Oil dealers and agents.
Good evening on behalf of your Standard Oil dealer. Remember the football players' threatened strike of last summer? Well, it's baseball's turn now. 960 Major League Baseball players are being asked not to sign for next season unless pension benefits are improved. Marvin Miller, the Players Association director, said that the players have been pressured with threats by club owners to sign now. Younger players, he said, have been told to sign now or play in the minor leagues next year. Older players who need the pension time have been told to sign or they will not get the needed time in the major leagues. It looks like a real battle is shaping up. Some of the top stars have pledged that they will not sign until a new pension agreement is ratified by the association. Among those players making the pension pledging are Willie Mays, Al Kaline, Bob Gibson, Brooks Robinson, and Harmon Killebrew of the Twins, among others. The dissension-riddled Minnesota North Stars again failed to win. The 8th game in a row in which they have failed to come out with a victory. The first period saw them trailing 2-1. They fell behind by a score of 3-1 in the second period, then came back to make it 3-2 after 2 stanzas. But Toronto picked up another goal in the last period, and the game just ended with Toronto winning by a score of 4-2. Parisi and Conley were the 2 Minnesotans who scored. Other action, the New York Rangers stepped over Montreal into first place with a 4-2 win over the Canadiens. The Chicago Blackhawks, meanwhile, lead the St. Louis Blues after 2 periods, 3-1. The Detroit Red Wings smashed Pittsburgh 7-2, with all-time scoring leader Gordie Howe getting his 700th career goal. Philadelphia and Los Angeles are just getting underway. In college hockey, the Gophers defeated Wisconsin tonight 5-1. Rick Urich and Steve Hall had 2 goals. Pete Fitzek got the other one as Minnesota came out on top of the Badgers. Well, the Minnesota Pipers picked up their 7th consecutive victory tonight, a well-earned win over the Texas team. Dallas Chaparrals losing 126-103. Charlie Williams was the leading scorer for the Pipers. He had 35 points. Connie Hawkins came in with 31. Other ABA action, Miami over Houston by 12 points. Kentucky won over the Indiana Pacers by a total of 2 points. In football, fullback Jim Carter will be captain of the Minnesota football team next season. Carter will be the first offensive back to be captain since 1954. Jim gained 423 yards rushing after a bad season of injuries. He led the team in scoring. Coach Murray Womath called him the best running and blocking football fullback he has had at the university during his tenure. All-American defensive end Bob Stein, meanwhile, is one of 3 Gophers named to play in the East Squad in the annual East-West Shrine game. This year's captain and linebacker Noel Jenke will also play in the December 28th contest at San Francisco, as will offensive guard Dick Enderle. All 3 are seniors. The Vikings fly west. That story next here on the 10 o'clock report.
The winners are coming in. The winners are coming in.
We've got Standard Oil dealer Robert Kirkpatrick on the phone.
Very first week, Mr. Darrell Luck won a 1969 Mustang Mach 1.
The winners are coming in every day.
And we've got Standard Oil dealer Al Reich.
Mr. Hampton stopped in on his way to work and left a $500 winner.
You can win a wild new Porsche or some cash. Play Mr. NFL.
Another dealer said,
I've had 35, 40 cash winners.
The winners are coming in. The winners are coming in.
play Mr. and Mrs. NFL at participating Standard Oil dealers now.
The Vikings left for California tonight to prepare for the 49ers on Sunday. The Vikings currently boast the best pass defense in the league, and they'll need it Sunday. Quarterback John Brody of the 49ers is this week's Offensive Player of the Week. After beating Green Bay, Clifton McNeil is the leading receiver. The New Orleans Saints have suspended tight end Monty Stickles for this Sunday's game with Philadelphia. Commissioner Rozelle took the action after Stickles was accused of attacking an official during last week's game. Philadelphia fans are very unhappy with the showing of their National Football League Eagles, who were 1-11 on the season, and they are threatening a boycott. A couple of lifelong Eagle fans are organizing the move. They want the 30,000 season ticket holders to tear up their tickets for Sunday's game and boycott the affair with New Orleans. They also want Joe Kaharick out as general manager and coach. Former University of Minnesota athlete Cal Stoll today was named head football coach at Wake Forest. For 9 years, Stoll has been an assistant to Duffy Doherty at Michigan State. More sports in a moment here on the 10 o'clock report.
Mr. and Mrs. NFL is the name of the big nationwide game offered by participating Standard Oil dealers. Look at the prizes. Wild new Mustang Mach 1s, luxurious LTD Country Squires, and cash, plenty of it. Mr. and Mrs. NFL, the game that gives you more than one way to win. Match the halves to win a car or cash, or predict the Super Bowl and win a share of $100,000. You get 2 teams with every game card. If both teams and score are right, you win up to $100,000. Just write in your score and send it in. Keep playing Mr. and Mrs. NFL for cars and cash. Keep predicting Super Bowl scores for a share in $100,000. The more you enter, the better your chances. Remember, your Standard Oil dealer is the one who lets you make yourself a winner.
Some local scores before we leave. In high school hockey, Monroe over Central. Johnson defeated Humboldt. Highland leads Harding after 2 periods. Moundsview and Washburn played a tie. Blake shut out West. In basketball in the NBA, Baltimore over Detroit. New York over Atlanta. It's Boston defeating Milwaukee, and Philadelphia winning over San Diego. In college play, Gustavus Adolphus over Northern Iowa. Iowa defeated Northern Michigan. Westmar over Morningside. Stevens Point over Winona. High school play, St. Paul Academy over Mechanic Arts. And St. Mary's tonight defeated the Czechoslovakia team they lost to them 86-69. No reports on the fight card down at Rochester. That's the sports for now. For Standard Oil, Al Tighe here. Stay tuned for The Tonight Show.
You've been through it big, and you've got a thirst to match. The tallest taste you can get is the taste of Coca-Cola. Things go better with Coke.
This Christmas, Barbara got her boyfriend the new Dutch Masters cigar jar. It's imported opaline glass. And inside is the best part of all. 25 Dutch Masters presidents. Barbara couldn't resist keeping the jar for herself and giving only the cigars. But you wouldn't do that, would you? The Dutch Masters cigar jar.